Hello and good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Uganda Crossroads. My name is David Lubuurwa, and whenever we meet every Saturday, it's really amazing for me and you to come and have a discussion about the future and the political environment of Uganda. Now, last Saturday, many of you did not have the access to watch the program we had because some of our social media accounts had issues that we had to resolve within a week. But I'm glad and happy to tell you that now everything is fine. So you can continue sharing, you can continue sending in your comments, you can continue sending us direct messages. We received a couple of messages from you, our viewer, last week why we didn't have the show for you. You were not in a position to watch it. But the issue was the technical things that we had to handle as Campfire Television, and now we're back. Again, same Saturday, different Saturday, same story, politics. So I want to thank you because what happened last week in Uganda, it's kind of like something that continues year to year. Makerere University strikes, I grew up in Uganda and strikes are continuing every now and then. So some of the things we're going to be talking about. Now, we also remember President Museveni is now somehow diverting from the so-called Western world, the capitalistic world, to the socialistic world, which is Russia and the other countries like China. That's where we are now going. You saw President in the Russia-Africa Summit discussing a number of issues about the country and, of course, the continent. These are some of the things we're going to break. Does it bring the positive change we need in Uganda, or where does it leave us? Send us your comments. Keep sharing, keep liking. And lastly, remember that Uganda, you are Ugandan and you own it. Same story whenever I come here to discuss. Do you see progress? Or are you still seeing the same things that happened 80 or 30 years or 40 years back? Some of the things are the ones that we always come here to come and discuss. In the studio, I have Sarah Joy Bakanasa, I have Richard Myombia. We are back again to bring down or break down the information that you didn't get right throughout the week. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope you had a great week. Every Saturday I come here and I'm happy because I know that I'm going to pick something new, or I'm going to challenge someone to tell me what exactly is going on in the country. So most importantly, Richard, let me start with you. Last time I started with Sarah because I was following the protocol of ladies first. Today I'm starting with you.
Yeah.
Your week?
Yeah, it was not good. I was so depressed this week because President Museveni has reached the extreme of his policies. He has reached to the far. I don't think it's good for Uganda. We are all so worried. We don't know what to do. But we shall manage this. All right.
Sarah, there are some ladies who were beaten up in Makerere University. But was your week bad or good?
My week was okay until when I saw some brutalizing of women and the disabled at Makerere University. That was disturbing.
That was disturbing. I want to start straight away from there. I think it was yesterday, Saturday, one, when the disabled, just as you said, the blind and others came together to show their dissatisfaction, and we saw police brutally taking them away. What does that tell you? Because you talked about it. What does it mean to you when you see such an environment in a country that you so much love?
It is so absurd. Every time we sit here or we openly talk about Museveni as a dictator, some people don't understand it. Or maybe they've not read more about dictators. I didn't live in Amin's regime. I was not yet born. But I had a chance, when I was studying political education, I got a chance, a little bit of the stories of Amin, and they were intriguing and interesting. So I interested myself in reading more about President Idi Amin. But the difference between Idi Amin and President Museveni is Idi Amin was a dictator who loved his country. He really loved Uganda with a passion that if he saw something good happening in if he traveled and saw something nice happening in another country, he would want to bring it home and do it. He loved his country that he would not dare be corrupt in his country. He was passionate about Uganda. Uganda was in his blood. The only difference you have here is you have two sets of people. You have President Museveni, who is a dictator, just like Amin was, or even worse, and he hates his country. When I saw the disabled having a press conference, and when the military and police were dragging the blind, What are the blind, what are they going to do? What are the blind going to do? It is really, really so absurd. And it's in the same week we saw pictures on social media of houses of police officers that had been deroofed by the heavy rains and all that. They were, they were in a miserable state. And on the other hand, they are manhandling Ugandans. So it is really, really so sad that we are seeing this in a broad daylight. These are things either we used to read about, or these are things we used to think, oh, it happened in the past regimes, they're not going to happen again. But it happened at Makerere University. This is the fountain. In Uganda, you would say this is the fountain of education. Makerere University is the fountain of education when it comes to like the mother of universities. So if you would call the fountain of education and such brutalities are happening, such mistreatment, you saw how, I saw what happened in Nkrumah Hall.
Right.
I saw what happened in Nkrumah Hall where you had the blind people, where a lame guy had an issue. You saw his room being vandalized and he was beaten up. It was really, these stories are really sad. I've seen stories, the girl who started the demonstration, she was brutalized as well. She's in hospital right now. So many incidences. Girls are complaining. So many university students, this is happening to them in their hostel rooms. They are tear gassed. Police went to door, and this is not police again. This is army. This is the army. And I've been reading so many stories coming from Makerere University where it is being said that Makerere University has been made a military ground where even on a normal day basis, you have the military camping at the university. This is an institution of learning. Why do you have the military on the university? Because this is scary for the, when we grew up, I remember when we were growing up, whenever we would see the military red top, we would rarely see them anywhere. We had this much respect for them. We would rarely see them anywhere. But they are all over the place right now. When you turn all over Kampala, they are everywhere. They are beating people. And we were told military is trained to kill. That's why they no longer come out. They only come out in instances that are really, really so serious, but we see them every day. But if we go back, why are the Makerere University students, what has gotten them to this place? They had a peaceful demonstration, and their peaceful demonstration is really legit. Because if you increase tuition by 15%, because I don't think the students would have an issue if the increment of the tuition was going to the payment of the salaries of the teachers. Makerere University teachers for the last 5+ years have either at some point put tools down, have at some point refused to teach, have at some point complained. At one point they were in parliament because of really very poor pay. If the lecturers are not properly paid, and then you're increasing students' tuition by 15%, what is the money going to do? Right. Is the government right now minting money from the poor students? Because these are students of poor farmers, these are students of people who are getting money from all these circles around Kampala to pay school fees for their kids. And are they minting money from these poor students, from their poor families, so that the government officials can enjoy and live a lavish life? It is really so absurd. And on top of that, my question was, you're making these students pay these exorbitant, tuition fees, and at the end of the day, they are going to be jobless. They are going to finish university and get onto the streets of Kampala for 5, 7, how many years? Someone is carrying a degree, but they can't even find a job. So why are you making life difficult for Ugandans in all corners? Before we thought it was life difficult for only politicians and all the other sectors. Now it has come to students, right. Lecturers. It has gone, let me finish this briefly. It has gone to primary school teachers because government has told them they must acquire a degree. And I'll tell you, I have some family members who are primary school teachers, and their salary is 480,000. And you're telling them to acquire a degree, of which they have to pay over maybe 2 million or 1.5. Where are they going to get the money from? And when are they going to teach? It is really sad. I do not know who is planning for this country, and I don't know who advises Museveni, but it's really sad. Yeah,
it's really sad. Richard, last week, again, we're talking on the same issue of Makerere University. The military police raided some of the halls in the campus. And these individuals were released with no charge. So what was the problem for the military to come and start raiding students like that?
No, the first thing you have to know is that there are two things. The government is defeated by people power. The second thing, anything, because the fight is Kampala, anything that starts in Kampala, a big demonstration, makes the government fall. You can see that 70% of all the security of the country is concentrating on Kampala because it's the capital. It's what will lead to Museveni's fall. So for him to go to Makerere University and start brutalizing students, he was fearing that I should punish you to show you, even went at night, that I can't do anything, you must not do this. You must keep quiet, either I'll take away the tuition that you want, but there must not be demonstration, or sit down, because I'm fearing my government is going to fall. But let's go back to the background of this whole thing. In 1976, I was a young boy. I was in primary 6 in Uganda. And then in Makerere University, there was this Idi Amin, the student demonstration on the days of Idi Amin. I'm telling you, we don't know how many students were killed. But the outcome of the demonstration, the killing of the student in Makerere University, led to the downfall of Idi Amin. Because what led to the intellectuals, the young boys, because as Makerere, you know, that was the institution of higher learning. What led to Idi Amin's fall, to join the rebels in Tanzania and Kenya, was the 1975 massacre of the students in Makerere. That's how the intellectuals actually joined the struggle to liberate Uganda during the days of Idi Amin. I don't know if Museveni is so clever to understand that what he's doing now is going to lead to an armed struggle. I don't know if he is aware of that, because he seems to see that I'm very firm as a dictator in two powers, the army with everything.
But the problem is, what do you guys think stops Makerere University to resolving these problems? Because it's like continuous process. Like every year when the first year students are starting, there is a demonstration. I was there in 2014, I was there in 2013, and even years before 2013 when I was at the same university, demonstrations were there. Same time, different administrations. What causes that, and what do you think?
But there are grievances. There are grievances. I don't think these students just come from nowhere to start demonstrating. There are grievances these students have, and government has refused to address them as a public. This is a public university that belongs to the government of Uganda. It has refused to address the issues that are concerning the students and then the teaching body of Makerere University. Talk about, you've had so many instances from the last 4 or 5 years, teachers have been demonstrating. And their demonstration is simple. They want a salary increment. Why are MPs earning over 30 million or 25 million when teachers, when lecturers who are producing these MPs, who are teaching the doctors, who are teaching the lawyers and all that, are earning 1 million, 2 million a month?
Yeah,
it is completely...
President Museveni promised professors that their salary is going to be increased to 15 million Uganda.
But it has never been increased, the cry of the teachers. And then when you start putting all these increments on the students, because if Makerere University students who are really being paid, lecturers are being paid well, then if the students were rioting over the increment in the school fees, who would say, no, your lecturers will increase the salaries, and where do you expect the money to come from? So we would have a reason for us to say, maybe the students are wrong. But the students are so right for them to demonstrate. Where is this money going, for starters? You're giving them an increment of 15%, and it is happening all the time. Where is this money going when the lecturers are keeping putting down? Because if you insist on this, because what happened at Makerere University just a week ago or this week, I am telling you, just watch the space. The teachers are going to put down their tools. Because if you're increasing tuition of the students and you're not even increasing their salaries, they're going to put down their tools. But you remember what Museveni said the other time. If you cannot teach, I'm going to bring in Cuban teachers. He has told the doctors he's going to bring in Cuban doctors to teach. So he does not really feel for what teachers are going through. And again, this also goes to the lawmakers. The lawmakers have failed really to improve the remunerations of lecturers so that they can be able even to calm down the whole situation, even when it comes to increasing tuition for the students. Lawmakers, when it comes to increasing their own salaries, their own allowances, they're the first. That is done in no time. But this is happening, and it is not going to stop until when you give the students proper reason. There is no reason why students would be demonstrating if they knew the tuition they are paying is going to the increment of the salary of their lecturers. There is no reason. And if they were getting better services, I know if they were getting better services, I saw the police, the rooms they broke into. Those look like, I was shocked. These are university halls. These are university rooms where students sleep. They look like dumpsters. So it's a terrible situation. If you improve the standards of living of university students, if you improve how the lecturers are paid, if lecturers are able to be in class, because you've had instances where students either have to chase after their lecturers, you've had instances where female students have to sleep with their lecturers to be able to pass the exams because lecturers are not available. These girls are not sleeping with these lecturers because they want, but because also lecturers are holding them at ransom. They're not available, they're not there to teach. So for you, if you want to pass, you have to part with your legs. So it is really, really absurd. But I blame this on government 100%. They failed to do what they're supposed to do to make Makerere University a better university, a better place.
All right, Richard, before you come in, I want to ask you this. The First Lady of Uganda, Janet Kataha Museveni, is the Minister for Education. Why do you think the system is not improving, yet she's so next to the top most important office in the country?
No, now let's first see. This is now a criminal act. We are live on air. This is a criminal act. Whosoever gave that order will be persecuted after Museveni is gone. I'm telling you on record. The first thing I'm going to tell you, the second problem of the education system is the unitary system of government, where the Minister of Education controls all the education sectors of the country. I propose to the people power, or to the Ugandans, that in the next government of people power of Honorable Chagway, we take away the right of a ministry from overseeing all the institutions of learning into the country to state governments. So the government of Uganda, the government of Bunyoro, the government of Busoga, the government of Kotido, so that they have state universities like in America. They have state universities where people go for free. That's what we are going to do in Uganda. That's what I propose to them. We have to have free education to get Uganda out of the problem. The problem of the Museveni and his wife, they want to control everything that is in the country. The minister has said he's responsible for the school in Kalamoja, he's responsible for the school in Kabale. The minister, one minister. And he's responsible. So all these things cannot perform under the leadership of one man or one woman. We have to take it to the provisional or to the state government to be able to run their own schools and universities like in America. The second thing is international education for transformation. I've already said this for many times, that in people power, what the people power are going to do is they are going to get all the wise people in Uganda and then bring them to America, bring them to Britain, take them to Canada, so that Uganda can have first-class education. That, I'll give you an example. About 3 or 4 years ago, there was the first transplant of kidneys in Mulago. The world has been transplanting kidneys for almost 30 years. Uganda is just starting the last 4 years. So what are we going to do with the education sector to improve it? We are going to get the students from Uganda, the best students, in every aspect of learning, mechanical, manufacturing, everything. Bring them overseas with the money that is going to come from the oil, train them, then take them back to the country and empower them and pay them very well. That's all. Then one more thing before I finish. Then there's these teachers, because these are the students. Now we have teachers. How are we going to improve the teaching sector in Uganda? First of all, pay them very well, almost an international standard. Second, the exchange program. In America, there's what they call exchange program, where a school partner with another school. Teachers from America go to Uganda, and the Uganda teachers come to America. All these things cannot happen when Museveni is in power. We have to get him out of office and his wife, and then do reforms in the education sector. Then the country will move forward. All these things will be solved.
I wanted to jump in and say something. You asked, why is this all happening when Janet Museveni is the Minister of Education? Janet Museveni is not educated. Janet Museveni studied through Makerere by proxy. She never attended the end of the class. any of the classes at Makerere University. Ask the year where they claim Janet Museveni graduated, if any of the students in those years in Makerere University ever saw her in any of the classes. Where did she sit her exams from? You mean she sat her exams from State House? Janet Museveni is not educated. The degree she has from Makerere is total fraud. So how do you expect an illiterate who is educated to run a full ministry of education, or to know what teachers require or what students require? And the Minister of Education, ever since she became Minister of Education, you've seen how, you know, the education sector in Uganda, you've seen how it has completely gone down. How do you get an illiterate, because she's your wife, and you give her a full office of Minister of Education?
But should we blame, because this is the kind of chain, she's vetted by the members of parliament.
What do you, there are rubber stamps of parliament.
That you people, Ugandans in the community out there, vote for.
Parliament has become a rubber stamp of President Museveni. So you cannot even tell me how many things have Parliament vetted that are not worth even being cautioned or being put to the public. So what do you want them to say? Do you want them to put Janet out and say, oh, she's not good enough? How many things? Let's go back to the term limit. This was able to pass through Parliament because they were paid, you know, 15 million each or however amount of money to go do consultation and all that stupid shenanigans, and then they came back and gave, and then all of a sudden they are voting that the limits must be, you know. So Janet Museveni has a fake degree. She does not have any moral authority to lead a full ministry of education. If Museveni really wanted her to give a position, she should be maybe her personal advisor or a minister without portfolio, but a full minister of education. What is she doing right now? A full minister of education. See how she's a mother. She's a mother, she's a wife to the president. How does she really sleep and wake up when female students are being brutalized? I've had some of them were raped. How does she sleep and wake up? How does she sleep and wake up when the blind are being brutalized by the military? She's the Minister of Education. You mean she cannot stop this? This is a problem of picking illiterates. She's an illiterate who got her degree by proxy. She has never attended any class. If I'm lying, let any of the students who were in that year Janet Museveni graduated come out and say she was in this class, she attended this research project, where did she do her research from? Because, you know, she did education, right? Usually they go out and do before they graduate, they go out and do their teaching practice. Where did Janet do her teaching practice from?
But if somebody makes an argument that just like a presidency, that for one to be a minister, they don't have to be professors.
You don't have to be a professor, but you must be having some level. In Uganda, you must have some level of education or understanding for you to be able to lead a ministry. Let's take away this nonsense that you don't have, because I'll just give an example. You cannot, if you say that you're the Minister of Information and Technology, you must have some knowledge of information and technology. The problem Uganda has right now, you have people in positions and running things they totally do not understand. They do not understand. Okay, let's say you do not deserve a degree for you to be a Minister of Education. How is the education sector faring ever since she became minister? If you don't deserve a degree, let's say that. If you don't deserve any level of education, how, you know, UPE, you've seen how it has gone down. You've seen what is Makerere University producing right now. You've seen that the education levels have really completely gone down because you put on top, you gave the mandate for a person who does not have the capability and wisdom to run that particular office. If she's not the right person, she's not the right person, because someone who has never stepped in a class, how is she going to understand the issues of teachers? She has never been to any class. She does not know what it means to be a student. She started by proxy. She doesn't know what it means to be a student. She doesn't know what it means to be a lecturer, because if you're a student, then you understand the problems of your lecturer. You understand, because as a student, you understand that. Someone who has never stepped in any class, someone who does, how does she understand the relationship between lecturers and students?
You know, over the years, we used to hear one name in the Ministry of Education, Namirembe Bitamazire. Was it a mistake that they brought in another lady who is next to the president to become the minister? Do you also agree with that? as far as...
yes, baby Tama's there, you know, she's to stay in Kansanga there, Chwafe State, I know.
And during her reign, things seem to be, we're working right. Not perfect, but because that's the reason why she lost her position in her constituency, because her district performed poorly, though she was the Minister of Education. So
yeah, but she was performing on the level of Uganda the way it's supposed to be. A teacher who's supposed to be paid well has to have another job or teach in free schools to get an income, or have a tutoring school in her house or in the neighborhood or somewhere in nursery school. So all this is a sign that Uganda's education system is wrong. Even on Bitamaze's time, it's only on people power that things are going to improve. For me, if people power takes over government as it's going to do, and they give me a job, you see the changes that will come in Uganda. We shall put it on an international scale. You must know you must know the academic standards we have in Uganda. Let me give you the background. I was reading Nelson Mandela's book, The Long Walk to Freedom, and said that the British people deliberately put curriculums for African people to study Luganda in schools, to keep them behind forever. We have to overhaul the system of education, so that our students that are taught in Uganda, or those that are going to be brought overseas for transformation, the studying of transformation, to come up with the modernity of things in the world, are on an international level. Things are wrong, right? Even in the days of Bitamazi, things are wrong.
Also something, you see what happened, you see what completely destroyed I'm just like I never went through UPE. What has completely destroyed the education system in Uganda is, you know, these campaign promises, these leaders rush to implement things or to do things when they've not understood how they're going to sustain them. Museveni rushed to introduce UPE, of which he did not understand.
I think that was kind of like a pressure from the international community, United Nations, that said everyone should have university education. And so the president
what does the pressure done? Because he introduced something they're not able to sustain. And that's a problem. That's a problem with Uganda and Museveni and his government. They rush into introduction of so many things that would be good. It is good for every child to have a chance to go through school. But how are you able to implement it? Is it sustainable? Because right now, if you have children that are coming through UPE, they can barely read. They cannot even write their names. What is the importance of UPE right now? It is as useless as you not having it. So they needed to go back to the drawing board to understand what is going wrong, what haven't we done right. For you, for instance, right now, for students to say they're having university, you've seen all the chaos that has come from universities where even up to now as I speak, you can still buy a degree from Makerere University without being in class. You can buy a degree, and I'm not talking of Nasser Road. You can buy a degree from Makerere University that has gone through the system and it is legit, because why is this all happening? Why are you able to buy a degree from Makerere University and moreover, this is a public university where you'd expect everything to be right? It's because the entire administration is not even being paid right. So the people who work in the transcript department, you can be able to go through them and get a degree even without stepping in class. And you're legit, and even when they're checking the system, you're right there. So many students are doing it. So the entire system needs an overhaul, and of which right now, I think Museveni, what he's doing right now, instead of, because I saw the statement on social media from the Chancellor Makerere University, and they were talking of engaging the students. If they wanted to engage the students, they wouldn't have taken the military and police to brutalize them. If they wanted to engage the students, they would have handled this, okay, when students raise their voices, because in Uganda, if you quietly and silently talk about something, nothing is done. If you raise your voices, that's when everyone wakes up. If that's really they wanted as a university, functioning body, they would have gotten the students and said, from the guild president and say, gather your students, we are going to meet up and talk about this. But after brutalizing them, after beating them, after violating their rights, their human rights to speak up, you want now to meet them up, and what are you going to say? They have every right to demonstrate against the 15%. It is not bearable. It shouldn't be paid.
All right.
Why are students paying the 15% increment when their lecturers, because after paying this money today, their lecturers are going to complain tomorrow and say, you know what, we're putting our tools down. Are the students going to stop the lecturers now?
I think...
And let me add on something small. I saw on a tweet by Andrew Mwenda where he talked of, public university was comparing them to government, to public and private universities. And I was really, really ashamed because Andrew Mwenda is educated, but he lacks common sense. And it is a problem. You can be as educated as you want, but the moment you lack common sense, you seem as good as stupid. Why would Mwenda even want to compare a private university to a government university, to a public university? Definitely parents choose to take their own children to a private university. I have a daughter, I've taken her to a private university. She's been studying law. She's finishing university, and I chose to pay all that amount of money because I didn't want to go through the drama of Makerere University. I would have taken her to the law school in Makerere University. No, I chose the private university because I can. But these are students of parents who cannot afford to pay the exorbitant tuition fees of private universities that end up in a government university, of which is supposed to be a government university. It's supposed to be bearable. It should be able to take in, students from homes that are not able, from parents that are not able to foot all the school fees.
Let me look into
and you're
this.
charging them as more or less as the public.
I want to get into the security
universities.
part of the country, but I want to start with Makerere University. It's going to be a yes or no. Was it right for the government to introduce the military and the police at Makerere University? Richard, yes or no?
No.
Sarah?
I don't like yes or no questions. Because you cut me off from even trying to elaborate things and talk about it. Definitely it's not. It is completely. But the government, just like he said, what has been happening from all along, if you've seen the riots that have really, really shaken Makerere University for a long time, if you remember the times of Basalirwa, if you remember the times of Odongoto, if you remember the times of Umbide.
These conflicts have been there year to year, year to year.
They've been there.
I was young and I
they've
saw...
always been there, but it has always been grievances. University students have been demonstrating, because I remember there's a time some years back where murders were happening at Makerere University. Students were being murdered. And for university, I remember one time, it was all over the news, the students had to carry a dead body to Parliament. They bought a coffin, put in, I think it wasn't a dead body, I think they carried a coffin to Parliament because one of the students had been murdered on the university campus. So there are issues these students have, but they've never been addressed. Government, the only way it addresses issues of Makerere University students is by suppressing them, is by using tear gas, is by using, that military rule arm. That's what it uses. But there's no single time they've sat down and resolved issues. That's why year in, year out, they'll continue coming up, they'll continue raising up, because they have never solved anything. Because up to this time, government should have been having a committee or a proper organized committee at Makerere University that really, before these grievances or before even students come out to demonstrate, it should be able to go, the students should be able to go to that committee, raise their issues, and find a solution before they go out.
Let's get deep into the security issue of the country. Recently, there was a lady who was killed called Nagirinya, if I pronounce it right. Nagirinya, who was killed, and it appears to be, if you look at the dots, the patterns, some of our reporters told us that if you look at the patterns, police knew what was going on, and police was supposed to control the problem before it escalated. What happened was, even though they had the footage, they refused to release the footage to the family of the deceased. Does that tell us that the police is behind all the murders that are now happening in the country, especially in the urban centers? Because when the president came out and gave a directive that, hey, I want in 2 days to settle this, things started changing the direction. Richard, I want you to start with that.
Yeah, you said the security of the country, the police. Let me tell you how Uganda police work. Because they're underpaid and they are corrupt, there's no step two that is taken without paying money. Charge, katu kadogo. That's the whole thing. They are corrupt. It's corruption. First of all, they work for the government of Uganda, not the people of Uganda. When it comes to the security of the country, they protect the president because that's socialism. That's why I hate it. They control. The people of Uganda must realize that with the system of government that we have in Uganda, where the police is under the control of the president, there will never be self-government. Look at self-government, how the police works. For example, the small town where I live, we have our own police there. We have our own police, totally independent. If something happens in that neighborhood, in 5 minutes, the police will be there. In 5 minutes, with all their cruisers. There's a magistrate in our area. There's a chief magistrate somewhere in our area. That's self-government. But in Uganda, the police on duty were on the cameras looking. But they were waiting for the family of Nagirinya to come and say, okay, we have some 1 million Uganda shillings here, and 2 million, please give us, and so that we can follow up these people so that they are caught early. They never went there to pay them because that's how they pay. How much do you think a policeman in Uganda is paid? If he's paid very well, he's paid 300,000 Uganda shillings. That's $100 a month. How do you think $100? He has to eat a matoke, he has to buy manda, he has to buy, take children to school. So the things in Uganda will only improve in people power. Only. First, self-government, police in local areas, totally independent, to work with the state government. That's number one. The second two, higher payment, well-paid people in police. Things will move forward. The security of the country will be handled by the people themselves of the areas. Once people are free, because who is arming all this? Look at what happened on Entebbe Road, this entire Leho, this young man, the Rwanda man that was killed, who used to be a friend of the State House. Who is charged in court? A policeman. Was that someone from outside that killed him? No, it's the security people that have been given access to do whatever they want with guns and money and everything, that are terrorizing the country. So
right now, the lady who gave a testimony came up and said that she's scared of her life. Police officers are trying to intimidate her while she's giving even these testimonies before the public, because we are able to watch the entire testimony. Does it mean that the government is now under control of just the police officers who we cannot, say anything about them or against them, something like that? What does it tell you when you see police now intimidating civilians, though it's supposed to protect them?
She should be scared, because don't get surprised if they tell you in maybe a week or so she's gone. Because there's no witness protection in Uganda for people who come up to stand as witnesses. There's no witness protection. So if tomorrow they come and tell you such and such a person who was a witness, it doesn't happen like in first world countries where witnesses are highly, highly protected, especially if they're giving vital or very important information that is going to lead to a bigger investigation and all that. But I wouldn't be surprised if she's intimidated, and if I was her, her family needs to find ways of putting her at safety. They should not rely on government, because police doesn't operate alone. Just like they say, it's a gang or group of mafias who are coordinating and working, to keep themselves in power and to see that they remain unshaken and rule forever. So she shouldn't be scared for her life. And it is entirely up to her and her family to see that they
But the president you want to take out of office has worked hard towards improving the security. That is, the statement has always been saying that we're having a better security, we are investing more money in the security system. And he gave a directive, and we are seeing some changes. Do you really think there is need to remove President Museveni out of power, despite the fact that you guys are saying he's doing nothing?
I'm going to give you a scenario. Where is the security? Where my mom stays in Chadondo East, that's a constituency of Bobby Wine. They enter the house by 6 p.m. And I'm serious. By 6 p.m., Chadondo East is 10 miles from Kampala City. And this is not only happening in Chadondo East. What has happened is that there is a gang of young groups of young boys who definitely have looked for jobs and failed to get them. So they move from town to town. There's a place called Kasangati, there's a gang there, there's a gang in Gayaza, there's a gang in Manyangwa. All these gangs, all what they do, they interchange.
Who is to blame? The people or the government?
What are you going, because you're going to blame, you know, when it comes to insecurity, so many things feed into insecurity. When there is massive numbers of unemployment, what do you expect? What do you expect? You're breeding. You're creating a breeding ground for thieves.
But the president has always encouraged Ugandans to work hard. So
where are they going to work?
Poor,
where are you have over 40. The last census that was 10 years ago put Uganda at 40 million Ugandans. Right now, if you do a census right now, with the rate at which Ugandans are very productive, it might put the census at about maybe 45 million or even 50 million. So if you have a growing population that grows on a daily basis and you have fewer opportunities for people to work, there are no factories, there are no opportunities for people to go and work. We ask every day people to go and work. Where are they going to work?
No, let me give you...
Where are they going? Because at the same time, we used to ask people, okay, if there are no jobs, do farming. What is happening to the land right now? So many people are being evicted from their lands they've stayed on for over 50 years. These are lands their grandfathers were on, their great-grandfathers they are on, and all of a sudden they come and tell you, you know, that land has been bought by an investor. So many people. And this is not happening far away from Kampala. It is happening in Bulenga. It is happening in Kaikiri. It is happening in so many areas. So people, even the land they used to utilize for farming has been taken away by the so-called investors who come and get the land. And, you know, so let me ask you one thing. Over 1,500 people were evicted from Lusanja. They were young.
Who were staying on a piece of land that they didn't own.
That's what they claim. That's what they claim. So this people who are staying in Lusanja, they could have been young boys and girls or young teenagers or young men who lost their properties, who lost their houses. What are they doing? They are the thieves right now that are terrorizing people in Chadondo East. I am telling you, people go in the house by 6 p.m. Recently, something happened in my own family. They cut down windows. I used to sit on social media. I thought it was a joke. I thought people were just lying. But windows, steel windows, were cut down and removed from the house and put aside. They came into the house and took whatever they could get their hands on. I used to sit and I'm like, people are joking. No, this can't happen. This happened in my own, and I was in shock. I'm like, how could steel windows? This is where we've gotten right now. Ugandans are unsafe. The people who are of my mother's age...
What person may say...
I'll tell you one thing. People who are of my mother's age, when we were growing up, they used to say, we don't have money right now, but at least we sleep. Right now, they can't even sleep. The story has changed. They don't have money, but they can even barely sleep. Because before, it has become so bad that the thieves, either they come, they kill you, or they take your property. That's how it has become. So what kind of security are you talking about? What kind of security when you have all these armed robberies around Kampala? Which kind of security when today the biggest risk you can ever do right now is to buy a boda and give it to a relative to ride it in Kampala?
Yeah.
So many people. Sometimes I love helping people, but if someone calls me and say, oh, please, I want to restart my life, buy me a boda, I openly tell them, I'm not giving you money for a boda. Because for me to give you money in a boda, that means I'm waiting for a phone call that you've been killed.
We recently had an interview with some of the police officers back in Uganda, some of our reporters as Campfire Television. And the police officers say that, no, we are doing our job. But the people are not doing their job. When somebody sees something wrong, instead of reporting to police, they just keep quiet. The masses encourage mob justice more than the security doing their job. So should we continue blaming one, President Museveni, or two, the police, or should we blame the people who are not working towards the security system?
When President Museveni came to power, the way he entrenched himself is, what do you say, politicizing the police, the army as his personal security.
But he's the...
Okay, that's why he said that for 33 years, what he was doing, there was no development in the country, was security. Let me tell you how the things, because I'm old enough to know, I saw these things. During the days of Idi Amin, they used to have what they call mob justice. When Idi Amin took over power, I was a young boy going to school. We could find people beating with blocks and killing thieves. No one could even steal during the days of Idi Amin. Mob justice. Now let's go to 78, 79. There was this no, 84, 85, there in between there, before Museveni took over power. There was this Kansanga, this UFA area where they were controlling. You could even leave your door open. No one could even steal because the people were vigilant, working with the army of Uganda Freedom Movement. They will take you to Cape Town, they'll beat you up, they'll leave you the next day, they'll bring you back in the society. No one could even steal, to be caught stealing. Let's see Museveni's time. Those group of mafias, like you said in Kasanga, they are working with the police officers.
Definitely.
They are working with them.
Because no one, you know, the last time they were arrested and taken in, the next day they were out.
Yes. So I've just been stealing this, give me this.
So the question would be, how can police provide the services if you Ugandans don't trust the police?
Yeah,
because how do you trust the police when it's working with those that are robbing and are creating insecurity in the country? And I'll tell you, Uganda, it is really sad that you've gotten also a trend of so many, what I would call conmen and buffet throwing around money in Kampala. And it is also introduced a new trend of people looking for money quick in all possible ways. They do not matter who they kill, who they terrorize, for them getting money. It's a new trend happening in Kampala right now that are so many, you see someone comes from nowhere and tomorrow they're throwing money around and they're celebrities. All of a sudden they acquire that status. And our government is not even questioning these people. I've seen people throw around money in Kampala. No one has been taken in to be questioned. Where did you get this money you're throwing around? Where did you get it from? Because no one works so hard for their money. Ever throws it around.
I don't know if
no one. I am telling you. I got a chance of working around very rich people I know in Uganda, like BMK. You not even easily take 10,000 from BMK. These rich guys who really work for their money don't just throw it around. But the people who are getting money from dubious ways, from cocaine deals, from all these dirty deals around, from dealing in human parts, human organs, are the one throwing money around. The police, we've not seen any, not even Parliament, has come out to set up a committee and say, we are questioning them. What is the source of your money? We want to know. I am telling you, just tell me you live in United States. Just throw money around for a week, and FBI will be at your door, questioning you where you got that money. You will explain the source of that money to the court until when they get the details. Until when they get the details of your money. You know what? Why does that happen? But in Uganda, it is completely impossible. So you're bleeding a generation that are going to kill, that are going to steal, and they're not even questioned.
I want to bring you back, but I want to bring you, Richard. Just a minute, Richard.
We have this
just a minute.
This Museveni moving to the far. That's a very important thing in our struggle.
Right. So I've just been informed that Honorable Robert Shagun will be coming in October 9th here in the Boston area. Sarah, you have a lot of information about it. I've been informed. So what is going to happen during that time?
It's going to be big. It's going to be massive. The other time, Bobby Wine was supposed to be here. He got a few engagements. He was not able to come to Boston as the earlier arrangements were. But this time, it is confirmed 9th of November. He's going to be in Boston, and we are going to be at Waltham, I think, High School. That's a venue where we are going to be. It's a big venue. We are calling everyone in Boston to come in big numbers because it might be his last one of his last engagements with the diaspora, because 2020 is getting into serious engagements back home. We may not be able to do international travels, so we have to come out in big numbers. If you have questions, you must engage. And we keep saying, the other time I wasn't really happy when we were having a meeting when Bobby Wine was supposed to appear, and then some people didn't come, and the reasons I got from people who did not come, Bobby Wine is not around. And it was really absurd, such information coming from the diaspora, for you to expect Bobby Wine to be everywhere at all times. I think we have to be mature enough to understand that he's one person, and every one of us is supposed to do their role and be part of the struggle in their own way. We cannot wait for Bobi Wine. He cannot spread thin.
Yeah, but this time he made a demo that he's going to show up.
Yeah, he's going to show up. Definitely he's going to show up. But for me, definitely, my message is to the diaspora is to look beyond.
He's going to come, but what should people expect from him?
No, people, definitely him coming to the diaspora is to engage with the diaspora. And we are using this as a fundraising also event. It's a town hall meeting, but we're using it as a fundraising event. So if you live in anywhere, because he's going to be, I think he's not going to have all the states that are nearby Boston, who are nearby this area, New England, I think the likes of Maine, DC, New York should be able to see him from Boston here because they might not be having any other engagements in the nearby states. And I know he's going to California, San Francisco after that, and maybe some other areas. So I need everyone should be able to engage because one, we are using this as a fundraising event for the cause because the role of the diaspora, 100%. One, as people who live in the diaspora, your role is to financially support the cause because you're not on ground, you don't know what people go through on the ground. But as people, we have coordinators who are selected that are on ground. We have mobilizers on ground. They need fuel. Let's not forget they need to eat, they need water when they're going around doing their activities.
So is this about just people power or even people who support NRM and other political organizations?
People who support NRM should come because no one doesn't want change. I'm telling you, 90+% of the people who live in the diaspora left Uganda because of the conditions of Uganda. Because I am telling you, why would you, we are going into winter. You know how winter is biting to the skin. No one wants to live in areas that are really so cold and you do not know how the day is going to be, or some days you have blizzards. You know, you wouldn't want to live in Uganda in all that comfort, the sun. You see the sun 24/7 throughout the year. But the conditions in Uganda have forced people to leave and look for greener pastures elsewhere. So as much as you support Museveni so much, and let's not even pretend and forget that despite the fact, even when you're in the diaspora, I keep calling it the black tax. We keep, as much as we run away from Uganda and come onto this other side, we are still faced with the problems of Uganda because on a daily basis, you have someone dying, you have an uncle getting married, you have someone being chased out of school fees and they did it from you. So as the diaspora, our role, come knowing your wallets are heavy. Come with some money to donate. Come with some money to donate to the cause because there is a lot to do. Bobi Wine as an individual, you've seen, he cannot perform. So he does not even, he struggles to get money to feed his family, so he doesn't have enough money to even take care of his family and take care of the struggle. So we are not contributing. I know he can take care of his family, but we should be part of the struggle. We cannot say we are part of the struggle when we've not, because our role as people who sit on this side who are not involved in the daily activities of the struggle is to financially contribute. And the other role of the diaspora, because when we engage and come and sit together, that's why we know, we understand what we are supposed to do. Our role as a diaspora is we influence what happens back home. If you're watching me from here and you live in the diaspora, I don't know, have you informed your family members to go and check if their names are on the voters register? Because as the diaspora, you can influence vote. Because largely the people we have back home, if their family members, they depend on us in terms of financial support. So you can influence the way they vote. There is no way I can waste my tuition on you, my money on you, and you claim you support the Museveni. I'll block you immediately. I'll block you immediately. You cannot tell me I'm paying your school fees, I'm feeding you, I'm clothing you, and then you start singing NRM Museveni. You're completely out. I blacklist you. So we influence. We completely influence what happens. And you should know right now, Museveni is largely scared of the diaspora. You know why? Because there is no any other time among politicians that have gotten as big support as Bobi Wine has gotten in the diaspora, and because the diaspora influences the vote. If you have, let's say, 1 million people in the diaspora, and maybe out of the 1 million, half of it or more for people power, just know they are changing over 5 million votes in Uganda. Because definitely if I'm engaging and talking to you, I'll tell you of the things I'm enjoying. You may never see. And maybe you want to see them in Uganda. So for you to be able to see them in Uganda, you have to change the system you have in Uganda. If I tell you of better medical services, if I tell you about service delivery. So I'm calling upon everyone in the diaspora, especially if you live in the areas near New England, that are neighboring New England, come. this is the time you're going to ask questions, because I know the diaspora also have questions. They need to understand how everything is working. Maybe, and this is officially the time Bobi Wine is going to introduce the coordinator. The coordinator, that is Mr. Karim Ntambi, and the coordinator is working with the number of people that are helping him run different things in different states. So it will be easier for you to understand who is working with who and who is who.
So, yeah, Sarah, I want to let you go on that. And so just remind me, just like viewers who are watching us out there, the venue is going to be, you said, Wortham Square?
No.
Wortham High School?
Yes.
And the date you said is going to be November
the
9th, right?
The date is 9th November. But the venue, I think it's Wortham High School.
I guess it's Wortham High School.
Yeah.
So I want to leave you. I want to leave you on that. And the reason why actually I brought in that for you to inform the world how Bobi Wine is going to come and when and all that is because a number of ministers back in Uganda who serve the current government have been denied visas. But we have seen almost every opposition leader who wants to travel to the United States, he's given a visa. Is Bobi Wine and his team behind all the controversy that's going on back in Uganda?
By the way, you cannot, the things that are Bobi Wine, what he has done, he has literally opened a can of worms for these people, for the Western world to see things they've not been seeing. Because the time of his brutalization opened a lot of doors for international media and for international stakeholders and international people to see what is happening. Yep. And look at the sanctions that has come upon Kaihura. The sanctions that have come about upon Kaihura have been long overdue, and so many people are going to follow suit. Because most of them, when they come here, you saw what happened to Miria Chambade when he was, I think last year when he was in one of the countries in
London, I think.
No, it wasn't London. It was one of the countries in Europe.
Scandinavian countries?
He was literally lying. He had gone on an investment conference, and he was literally lying. You saw that video. He was literally lying in there, lying about the things they do in Uganda, which is completely not true. And I really give kudos to the guys who really intervened and called her out. Because this is what they do. They come to the Western world and keep telling their lies and keep sugarcoating the whole situation so that they can get funds to take back home and enjoy on a personal level. Whatever they're collecting is not benefiting Ugandans.
I want to bring in Rich.
We have, and it doesn't make sense for us to allow people who have taken out time to brutalize Ugandans, who have taken out time to really steal funds from Ugandans, to come to the Western world and milk a cow they have not fed and enjoy the services.
All right. So, the first way, the president, first of all, complained that Bobi Wine is responsible for reducing the number of investors that are coming back to Uganda or to invest in Uganda. Secondly, ministers and members of parliament are asking the European Union or the European community members to allow ministers to go in their countries and not deny them visas. And I'm talking about Jacobo Olanya, the assistant speaker of the country, and many other leaders. Eli Tumina has also come out to say about the same story. What does that mean? Because you guys in people power are becoming a problem to the country.
No, let me tell you. People, there are things that I want you to know today. Let me begin here. It's on monitor. It says, Museveni Putin discuss defense cooperation. Now let me give you the scenario that is in Uganda. Uganda has been in between two countries. The Western world, the Western democracy, and the Eastern democracy. With Honorable Bobi Wine coming to America, because he's a good man, the only way a country can develop and come out of the way they tell us shithole country, we have to engage and be friends to the Western democracy. I'll give you an example.
Now you're creating what the president disagrees
Let me give you an example. In 1989, 1990, when the economy of the Soviet Union or the economy of Russia fell, who got them out of the ditch? Was it America with the Marshall Plan? The German government after Second World War, was it the Marshall Plan? Japan, was it the Marshall Plan? Korea after the war, the Korean War, was it the Marshall Plan? So even Russia, where Museveni is running, Even where China Museveni is running, it was America that took them out of the ditch where they are. Why can't President Honorable Chagwen come to America and help Uganda get out of the ditch where they are? Where Museveni has put the government. Now let me give you the explanation. Museveni is signing an arms deal now, or a military cooperation with what?
Russians
with
and
Russia.
Chinese,
He has moved Uganda to the far left. What it means is the next 2 weeks, there are going to be Russian troops in Uganda. You people that are watching us, you better be careful to be engaged in the people power struggle to get Museveni out of power.
One may say that the government is trying to strengthen the security system.
No. Let me give you an example. A month ago, they signed a deal in one of the countries. I heard it, I think we spoke about it, where Museveni signed a nuclear deal in Uganda, where they're going to build nuclear. Because nuclear is the last arm of dictatorship they can use to make sure that their communist leadership, generation and generation, move from one family to another, like North Korea, like Iran trying to build a nuclear plant in Iran, like Russia has. So the Ugandans must know that Museveni, knowing that he has been defeated, is now running to the far. That means whatever is going to happen after the election of 2021.
What do you predict?
Yeah, because if people rise up, Museveni is going to kill them, and there's not going to be a country from the Western Europe that is going to come and engage when there's Russian troops on the ground. But we have a solution for that. Russia is not an island. Uganda is not an island. We must be well organized to engage in the United Nations at the earliest as possible.
But
that is the key.
Again, what you must understand, as much as Russia wants to come in, America has bigger interests in Uganda. So either way, I don't know. You know, you see what has been happening with Museveni.
No.
He made a mistake.
First, hold it here. If this is true, what Museveni has signed, you cannot have two superpowers in one country. That means Ugandan security America's military has been told to leave the country. That's why you see backdoor there, this blockade of all these visas. That's what you're saying.
You see, what I'm saying is, you know, the UN base is in Entebbe, and at one point in time they wanted to move it to Nairobi. And the government of Uganda kind of threw in a tantrum and demonstrated. And because definitely the UN base being in Entebbe, the government benefits more from it. For reasons, all the apartments, all the hotels, all the surrounding areas in Entebbe, you do not know how many American soldiers are based in Entebbe. I've been to one of the bases in Entebbe where they stay. There are so many. And because they man the areas of Congo, of CAF, the Central Republic, they man all those areas where that have been destabilized. So there's a lot of American action in Uganda with their base in Entebbe. So America has a bigger interest in Uganda, especially if it's using it as a base to man all these areas that have been destabilized. And if you look at the biggest budget of the military of Uganda comes from the Americans. So what is Museveni doing? He's eating his cake and he's having his cake and eating it. He's eating his cake and having it at the same time. Because he thinks he's going to jump in bed with the Russians to build a nuclear, a nuclear plant in Uganda. But watch the space. Americans are not going to allow it. If America right now is still fighting with North Korea,
but one may argue that you guys are trying to, encourage or allow the Western influence to take over the country.
Definitely.
The president is trying also to fight against that.
You are going to allow it because what has nuclear plants done? You've seen countries where testing nuclear plants has led to new kids being born, unborn babies, or babies born with no arms. Bonds with the detached.
Could be used for energy.
You know what? If you do research, if you've read about what nuclear poisoning, how they poison the environment, how it has affected areas where these tests are being done. You are not going to kill Ugandans. It's not going to happen. I am telling you.
A country where you cannot even manufacture a bicycle.
But at the same time,
Who do you blame?
but at the same time,
let me ask you guys.
Can I finish up this? But at the same time, you know, those are all scare tactics of a dictator, because Museveni, when you look at what holds him into power, that is going to scare Ugandans. Look at North Korea. North Korea, the president is as young as 20-something years or early 30s. What is holding him in power is the nuclear he has. And America is going in, you know, is tapping in slowly because they do not know what he can do yet. And they do not know maybe how much of it he has. So why do you think they are going to sit aside and let, you know, this virgin area start building a nuclear plant and start terrorizing the entire area? Because if you look at it, Museveni at one point in time, he was calling for the African Union unity, and at one point in time, it was rumors were going around he wanted to become the president of Africa if Africa emerged and became one block. He wanted to become. His dreams, as much as he's becoming wary, his dreams of even, you know, entrenching himself as a dictatorship in Africa are big and large. Let me go a little bit back to what you said when you said, oh, President Museveni is blaming Bobi Wine. You people, we operate in a digital era. Let me talk about what happened when millions and millions of dollars were issued by Parliament for the building of Lubuurwa Hospital. That was not done in secret. That was all over, you know, social media. That was all over media. And I'm telling you, so many people are following American politics. As the other time I put up a post as with the lady who is 101 years, and she was telling me, lecturing me about Bobi Wine. She was a former attorney, a famous attorney in here in New England, and she was telling me about Bobi Wine. And I was wondering, where did she even get the interest to start learning about Bobi Wine? But so many people, so many legislatures, so many congressmen, so many people in American politics are following the politics back home. So if millions in a short period of time, we then got to know that the money that was, that was released by Parliament for the building of the Lubuurwa Hospital disappeared, to which they do not know who took the money. So, which investor do you think is going to invest in the Ugandan economy? With all the insecurities, recently there was there was a group of and these women are from one of the countries in the Scandinavian countries. They were raided in their home where they stay. And first of all, look at the, you know, when you look at the currency, the shilling is really, really depleted. That are, you know, if you take in your dollars and then you want to convert your dollars you want to convert shillings into dollars, you're not making money, you're losing money. So the shilling has no value. Uganda is a virgin place where you really want to invest. But at the same time, the levels of corruption in that country, so many people have lost their monies down there, that you have to think twice before you go in and invest.
All right, so
there was something
you were defending that Bobi Wine is not responsible.
Okay, let me give you the background of is Uganda going to benefit you with Museveni taking Uganda to the far left and bringing in Russia troops as a global, or what they call geographical spheres of influence.
Right.
Yes. Let me give you the background of Abdul Nasser of Egypt. Abdul Nasser of Egypt, when he was president of Egypt, he had this Aswan Dam, the big project. We all grew up knowing what they call the Aswan Dam project. Because he was manipulating the election, imprisoning oppositions, human rights, media. The American told him, look, we are going to fund this Aswan Dam, but you have to improve on this democracy, human rights, not putting to prison your opponents. And he said, no. What did he do? He moved far to the left to the Soviet Union. What came out of the Soviet Union? The Soviet Union have never been friendly to anyone. They are thieves. They are thieves. They don't develop a country, they just take out because they're also poor. What happened? They had the 67 days war. Through that influence, the Russians with Abdul Nasser, and they had the 73 war. Up to this day, Egypt is poor and behind because of those two big wars. What the manpower, the money that was supposed to develop the country, was spent in these wars. Now you are telling us that we are going to benefit Russia coming in because it's fighting for a geographical areas of influence as Uganda part of its base. That's why they are kicking out the Americans. And we Ugandans can just keep quiet and look at it. You think we are fools? Every Ugandan must wake up now. If we are to live as Ugandans, we must wake up now. If we are to die, we are to die. If we are to fight, we are to fight. But there must not be a Russian nuclear capability in Uganda. Full stop.
There is a narrative that, people power, you guys who are so much capitalistic in nature, and President Museveni and his government, they're socialist in nature. So we're going to have those conflicts in the country. People are going to end up dying and losing business.
Yeah, but we the people of Uganda must decide in a referendum which type of economic system we want in the country and political system. We the people, not for him as a communist to decide for us the future of this country forever and ever.
I want to end up with this.
Sure.
So you guys get so mad when people talk about the greatness of President Museveni, especially members who believe in the people power government. Do you really think the problem, I've asked you the same question a couple of weeks ago. Do you really think the problem of Uganda is President Museveni, or the people who are working for President Museveni?
Yes. Yes, because of his political and economic system. Who made that constitution? He made that constitution for him to make a transformation of Uganda the way he wanted it. I was there when that constitution was being made. I'm so sure of the way it was made. He said, give me the authority to transform Uganda the way I want it should be, because I have fought for it. 30 years later, or 30 years later, has he transformed that country? Has he?
We see better roads.
If a home, I'm going to use an example before I elaborate. If you have this home and a man has 20 kids and all the 20 kids are thieves, do we blame the kids or do we blame the parents?
That's a good question. Let me pose it to the viewers who are watching us. Do you blame the kids or do you blame the parents? I would suggest, personally, if you give me that opinion, I would say that the parent didn't do his job.
The parents didn't do his job.
But at the same time, I'll also come back to the kids.
No, the parents, the parents, the kids turn out to be what the parents planted or created. So you cannot exonerate Museveni when you're blaming what is happening in his government. He's 100% responsible for whatever is happening in Uganda. Let's take a quick example from Rwanda. How has Kagame been able to curb down corruption in his country? Whoever is called corrupt is put behind bars, and they serve their time, and that's why when you look at the levels of corruption in Rwanda, they've really gone down. What has Museveni done when it comes to corruption? What he does, he recycles. He makes you, puts you on a waiting seat for about 2-3 years, and he brings you back. I'll take you to an example of Muhwezi at the time of the Gavi Fund. That was money meant for buying HIV drugs for people living with HIV. That money, during that time, Mike Mokula and Muhwezi were responsible for the office. He was the Minister of Health by then. Money disappeared. What happened? Muhwezi was recycled, and right now he has been bounced back into government. So many corrupt officials have been named, committees have been put together, and people have been really, after committees have sat, people have been really saying, it comes out this person is responsible. What has Museveni done? As a leader, he has failed because he's failed to tame his home. If we look at Uganda and all the people who serve him as a home, he has failed to tame anyone. And you cannot blame the incompetency. What has he done? Because he's one person, everything begins with him and ends with him. He thinks he's the omega and the alpha of Uganda. He has destroyed the entire system that would have been functional and made it all about himself.
Let me
finish up with this.
Right.
All institutions in Uganda are completely non-functional. Why is Museveni opening up village toilets? Why is Museveni opening up boreholes?
He's a people person. One may argue that.
No, because he has failed to understand that as a leader, you must be having functional systems and organizations that are being able to do things. You mandate them to do things, and they are held accountable. Why is he having all these endless ministers, advisors, cabinet, state ministers What are they doing? If he's still opening village toilets, if he's still going out in public with envelopes of money, giving it here to circles, if he's still doing all the dirty jobs that his ministers and all the rest are supposed to be doing, he has completely taken away the role of all these people that are wasting taxpayers' money in form of salaries, taking them on a monthly basis, and he wants to do everything for himself. And how do you follow up, and how do you ask for accountability for things you go out and do for yourself?
We are ending up with this, and I want you guys to be honest with me. There is a new developing theory that Honorable Kyagulanyi is a good leader, but is not the best candidate for 2021. 1 minute, Richard. He's good for 2026, not good for 2021.
No. Let me tell you. Honorable Kyagulanyi, like any other person, is a person. I know Museveni right from the bush. One person told me that I don't like Honorable Kyagulanyi. I told him, but do you like Museveni? He said no. I told him the reason why I like Honorable Kyagulanyi is going to give me a chance, me as a Ugandan, to go into what they call self-government. This person was a Mutoro. He said self-government. If you don't trust him to lead the country like Museveni is leading it in Uganda, Honorable Kyagulanyi is going to give you a chance for self-rule. Who is better for you? I took Kyagulanyi because he's going to give me an opportunity to overhaul the system of government in Uganda, the economic and political system, so that I'm part of the government, and then I am part of the transformation of the country. That Museveni to keep up going with his failed political and economic system. That's why I like Kyagulanyi.
Sarah.
Definitely, I've had those questions being thrown around. He is not the best candidate, but if to briefly break it down within the history of Uganda, I think in the history of Uganda, we've had maybe 1 or 2 leaders that have come not out of the military rule. Most of the leaders, and what we are suffering from right now, is a leader who came from a military rule, who thinks, and you've heard him in some instances, is him mentioning out that, I fought for this country, this is my thing. He still thinks he owns Ugandans because he went to the bush. No one sent him to the bush. For starters, no one sent him. Some of us, when he went to the bush, we were not yet born. We do not know. Whoever is signed with that agreement, they need to undo that agreement because we were not there. None of the Ugandans, I'm sure, sent him to the bush. And we do not know what he was fighting for. And majority of us Ugandans who are here right now, we did not ask him, we don't know what he is fighting for. So if Kyagulanyi is not right, the question is who would be right? Because if you look at, let me talk about the potential leaders you've had.
Then 1 second.
Yeah, Dr. Besigye comes from a military rule. As much as for the last 20 years he has tried, I don't see him doing any different from Museveni because they have the same military background. Still will have that military iron hand, handling things than a normal way of handling things without a military background or without thinking, I went to the bush. When I want to compare it a bit with American politics, America has leaders that come completely, I think a few leaders come from a military background.
Eisenhower.
Or maybe even none. You've had Obama come from a background that is completely, he's a lawyer and all that. Now you have Trump coming in from a business world and is president. So they are able to test every
guy.
They are able to test every element, the bad and good from all these leaders. But the best we have out of Kyagulanyi right now, why he's the best candidate, if I'm going to sell him in 1-2 seconds, is one. He doesn't come from military background, so we are not expecting to hear stories of I fought for this country or this is mine or this is no. He doesn't come from military background. He's not going to tell us about, because every time Museveni wants to deflect, he takes us back to the bush. We weren't there.
Right,
Let me finish up. Museveni deflects by taking us to the bush, how they fought, how they did this, and Nakapidi, all those stories of Nakapeka, we were not there. We don't want to know those stories. Those stories, he needs to gather people of his age, the 70s, the 80s. Those are people who would understand those stories. Majority, 85% of the population of Uganda do not totally, they are clueless of what Museveni is talking about. So why Bobi Wine is the right candidate? One, he doesn't come from a military rule. He's not going to tell us those stories. Two, Bobi Wine resonates with 85% of the population. When he talks, they understand. Bobi Wine has grown up in our eyes, in front of our own eyes. We know him, we've seen him. People who have lived far away from him, maybe they don't. I know him, I've seen him. I've seen Bobi Wine when he doesn't have a coin. I've seen Bobi Wine when he doesn't have a meal. I've seen Bobi Wine in one trouser for the whole week. So He's really someone who will understand the problems of Ugandans, because he has grown up at a time and he has been able to fight himself through the tough conditions of surviving in a country, of a dictatorship, of all that. So he's the right person. He has cropped up. He has grown up within us. We know him, we understand him, and we are able to hold him accountable, because he's not coming from a different generation. He's not going to tell us stories of yesterday.
So in other words, you want to be that he's a very good candidate because he's a hard leader who will work for the country, not the children. Is that what Bobby Wine comes from a time where he knows he's going to be held more accountable than any of the leaders. Because, first of all, take away all the stories he's going to tell us from all his past, the war, all those shenanigans. Those are stories we do not expect from him. But he's the leader. And again, he understands the most important thing Uganda is suffering from is President Museveni has failed to understand the problems of the population. The problems, Uganda, who is giving Museveni problems right now? It is the 40 million Ugandans who are jobless. It is the 40 million Ugandans who are not satisfied with the service delivery. So watch now what Uganda is going through is the problems of Ugandans are biting Museveni on the backside. Seriously. So Bobby Wine, we expect him, because he has failed. Sometimes you wonder and say, how can't he even understand these simple things? Sarah short,
so the fact that he has refused to understand the problems of Ugandans. So we need a leader who understands, who has lived in the moment, who knows what Ugandans are going through right now, and maybe has a better solution, and who maybe can provide a better solution for Ugandans to come out of the problems they're living right now.
I want to remind the people back there at home that Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, I've been informed here, of course I knew, but he's going to be here in the Boston area or the New England area. So November 9th, it's going to be a Saturday. If you are planning to go for a wedding, take time for your country. Now, it's just to hear from what he has to offer. I'll be there because I want to ask him some few questions that I want to see happen in the country. So it's going to be an opportunity for me to go and meet him and have a discussion. So if you're around New England, you were within Boston or even some states, so you can even fly in from other countries and you can be part of the discussion or the town hall is going to be having. So it's going to be important for you to come. Lastly, normally I end up my shows this way. We love politics to talk about politics. But there is nothing, as usually says, one talking about politics when you're poor. Always think about working hard and make sure that these leaders do not think for you, but you think for them, so you'll be in position to demand. So I want to thank you for watching the show. Coming up next, the girls are ready, the boys are ready. Love, Sex, and Money. You love that show. I love it too. Have a great week. See you next Saturday, same time. Guys, I want to thank you so much for the arguments that you have had today. You've really given me more, and of course the public, I'm sure, they've really appreciated what you've said or discussed. Next Saturday, we are meeting again. Every week we have a new story coming up, so it's normal. We understand that's the politics of Africa and the politics of the world. But again, I want to thank you so much. To our viewers, have a great week. See you next Saturday. Don't forget to send me a text or a message on our page or even directly on my page, David Lubuurwa. We can have a chat and see where you want to see improvements and all that. So have a great week. See you next time. I'm out.
Hi, greetings to all of you fellow Ugandans in the diaspora. My name is Chagulanyi Sentamo and I bring greetings from home. We thank you, friends, for the work that you continue to do in regards to the struggle to liberate our country. I want to inform the friends in Boston, in Seattle, in California, and those friends in Toronto, in Canada, that I will be with you soon in November. So I look forward to interacting with you and catching a good vibe as we talk about the future of our country. See you soon. Hi, greetings to all of you fellow Ugandans in the